That's not a knife. That's a knife. No one's gonna get Crocodile Dundee references. I mean, really? Welcome back, all of you beautiful people. Wild here, coming to show you a really cool video where I'm gonna show you how to make your own palette knife out of some simple materials. Now, the reason I'm doing this video today is because some of my fans, that's right, I have fans. Thank you, Mom, for watching my videos. A lot of people don't have access to a palette knife in whatever country they're in or region. They just don't have access to it. So I'm gonna show you how to make a really simple palette knife that'll get you started on your painting adventures. That's gonna allow you to do things like paint breaks or cut in certain parts for reflections or just mixing paints in general. You're gonna love this one, so let's go right over to the tutorial. When it comes to palette knives, people are usually used to two types, a large and a small. This is a number 10 palette knife from the Bob Ross Company, and this is a number 5. The big one's for doing mountains and paint breaks and cutting in certain things like reflections, and the small one's for finer details where you just kind of have to find your way in and put a few little small details. Pick and choose whichever knife you want to replicate for this tutorial here. To make it easy for me and for you, I'm just going to do the small number 5, but you can obviously do larger or smaller knives depending on what type of painter you are out there, okay? What we really want to try to mimic here is the blade itself and try to get the rigidity and flexibility that it has. And luckily for me, I discovered a really cool thing that comes pretty darn close to this. And that is gift cards, excess credit cards, any type of card, could even be an extra hotel key card that we can use to make this awesome blade. Let me show you how. Step number 1 is to get access to extra gift cards. These can be easily found at your local Starbucks or any fast food restaurant. They're right in front. Just ask if you can take some. One gift card will get you a blade that's more flexible, but we want to stack 2 together if you can, because this will get you a nice firm blade that has also got some flexibility in it. You will need access to some sort of glue. I recommend using a hot glue gun because this will bond really fast and really tight. But if you don't have access to a hot glue gun, any glue will work, Gorilla or Elmer's. Double check to make sure your gift cards are the same size. When your hot glue gun is all hot, we want to put a nice ribbing of glue all the way around and in the middle of the card. When you're good and ready and got some confidence, lay the card directly on top and apply a lot of pressure. We want to make sure we get all of the air bubbles out as much as we can and create a tight seal as possible. Don't be afraid if there's some gaps, and also don't worry if you don't get it 100% perfect, because the card will still work regardless. The most important part is to make sure that your gift cards are perfectly stacked and in line with each other when they're on top of each other. For a small detail knife, the measurements are 1 inch by 1/2 inch. For a large knife, that is 1.5 inch by 1/2 inch. Mark off your measurements and come down about a 45-degree angle, making sure to use as much of the card as you can. If you need some visual guidelines, painter's tape and masking tape also makes a great guideline for when you have to make your cuts. With strong shears, follow your guidelines you have made and simply cut through the plastic. When the plastic's all cut, we have the perfect blade shape that we need for our palette knife. On the non-blade end, snip off the pointy part so that way our knife will be flush for our next step. Now that our blade's all made, let's look at our handle. I'm going to use a wooden dowel that I got from my local hardware store for 69 cents. I'm going to use a 3/8 inch, but pick and choose whichever diameter wooden dowel works best for your hand size and comfortability. Most palette knife handles are 4.5 inches long. Mark this length on your wooden dowel so that way we can make the correct cut. On the opposite end of the dowel, make sure you put a line down the middle of the dowel for our blade to sit in. Real quick, if you don't have any wooden dowels accessible to you, using the handle of a foam brush works great. They're just a little bit small, but hey, they do the job. Simply cut down the line using a power saw or hacksaw and measure in the diameter for what you'll need for your blade. About 1 inch will do. Cut your incision point, and now we have the perfect spot for our blade to rest in for our palette knife. Take our blade and add a light coat of hot glue around the blade and shove it into the incision we made on our handle. Once you've got it nice and flush with the handle, go ahead and add more glue on the outside cuts and around the blade where it meets the handle. This way we have a nice firm blade meeting our handle, so that way it is there and secure for when we have to use it. If any glue spills out from the side, don't worry. When it's warm to the touch, you can just simply rub it off with your thumb and fingers from the wood and blade. If it's dried a little too hard, that's okay. You can use a nice sharp blade or open pair of scissors to kind of shave the remaining glue off, so that way your handle is nice and smooth to the touch. And here we have our awesome, beautiful knife that we made for literally, I don't know, less than $1. It is literally the best hack out there if you're trying to get into palette knife painting or Bob Ross painting for wet on wet and you want to do paint breaks. And as you can see, it's not as great as a Bob Ross knife, but we still get the same flexibility. It looks a little funny, but hey, it does the job. And if you can make it for just a few pennies out there in whatever country you're in, this is so awesome. And I know you love me, so you're welcome. Now, of course, you're all wondering, does this thing even work? I mean, it only costs us a few bucks. Well, obviously we're gonna test it out because the proof is in the pudding, my friends. So as you can see, it does a decent job of pulling paint flat, so that way it can be applied on the knife easily. Now, to be fair, this was my first time using this knife, so it took me a little bit on my first run to adjust to it, but on the second attempt for paint breaks, I understood the knife a little bit more and I was able to achieve beautiful paint breaks. It just takes a few practice strokes for it to kind of click in to your hand and your motion and allow that paint to roll off. After a little bit of practice, I had a greater understanding and it was a lot easier to get paint breaks, which is awesome because I know you're going to be able to achieve this too. So you must admit, it's pretty cool that you can make your own palette knife for just a couple of pennies out there, but it's not without its flaws. Due to the round dowel here at the end, this can actually bump against your canvas, so you don't get to use all of the paint as you come down through the palette knife. So you actually have to use a lot more paint on the end of the knife and you have to come in more of a straight angle, and then as you come down, you have to expose more of the blade. That's just a little tip I want to give to you. If you're really adamant about making your own knife, you can actually sand down these rounded edges so everything comes a little more flush, but obviously that'll take you a little bit more time, but you have that option out there. Now, of course, I obviously recommend getting your own palette knife. Nothing feels better than a palette knife. I'm gonna put a few down in the description below so that way you can check out, because there's a few from like Michaels, Artist Loft, or these Bob Ross ones I really love. But if you don't have that option at all and you can't get something online or wherever you're at, making your own one takes no time at all. I literally made this in just a few minutes and started painting with it for this tutorial within just another few minutes. So you can really get up and running right away. Now, if you happen to make your own palette knife out there, please let me know by leaving me a comment down below. And you can personalize this thing any way you want. Feel free to color it, spray paint it. You can even plastic dip it, so that way it's a little easier to grab onto. There's so many cool things you can do to personalize this. Now, if you want any more awesome hacks and great hair from me, make sure you subscribe to my videos down below. And like I said, leave me a comment because it helps my channel grow. I love helping everybody out on their creative adventures. And if you want to see something from me, hey, don't be afraid to let me know, because I will do my best to make a video for all of you beautiful people out there, because I want you to be bigger and better. Well, that does it for me here on this awesome video. I'm gonna put a video over here to the side that's gonna show you some really awesome techniques on how to make clouds within just moments. Check that video out right after this, and until next time, all you awesome people, stay creative, and of course, peace.